Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murtiveda Vipagine Vyomabda Vyopta Dihaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Savaveganta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshimaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome to the Gita, the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. We have seen, we are on the 6th chapter, page 1, 2, 3, 4, in which Swamiji, it's an interesting thing because here he does not show, his transcription do not show the verse 18 in English. Twice he goes long describing this verse 18. But today again I looked for it. There is no verse 18 explicitly present in English language, only commented upon. But it's all about the nature of dhyana, the nature of meditating. I mean, he gave some instructions before that we need to empty the mind from those thoughts relate to the body, to the mind itself, and to the world, and keep the mind, keep only the thoughts of the mind around the nature of the Atma. So bring the mind to the Atma, to the self, which is quite a subtle subject, as we know. And anyhow, we understood the meaning of the verse 18, and he was again explaining, and we have seen it, the nature, the final stage of this process should be called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And we talk about dharana and dhyana. Dharana is the initial effort to bring the mind to the Atma, to the self, and then dhyana is somehow an effort that we do to keep the mind there. First, we make an effort to bring the mind to the Atma, to the self. Then we make an effort to keep the mind on around those thoughts of the self. And then the final stage is said to be Nirvikalpa Samadhi, in which the mind rests around those thoughts without effort. So the first is the effort to bring the mind from the world to the self. The second is to keep it there. And the last stage is the most juicy because no effort or discipline is required. The mind effortlessly and relatively easily remains in that state of samadhi. Okay, and there on the page 1, 2, 3, 4 towards the bottom, we begin with the paragraph which says, with this background, we will see the meaning of the verse 18. Vinyatam chitam, the mind. So, which is the verse that I couldn't find anywhere translated clearly in English. Now, so the mind is first withdrawn from the external world, external objects. And what do you mean by withdrawing the mind? Is that the mind has physically gone somewhere? Is it that the mind has physically going somewhere? No, of course, there is no question of time and space. Time and space, it has a lot of relevance in respect to time and space because the objects appear and then we need to travel between two objects and that take time within space. So, but as far as the mental world, that's why a lot of people in this new age kind of uh, world of concepts of spiritual groups, and so they say that in the in the subtle realm, on the higher dimension, everything happen like that. When you think, you manifest. Okay, why? Because there is no distance to travel to go from here to the house of Lynn, for example. Okay, I'm here in Brazil, Lynn is there. I just think about that. Suppose I knew her place. I have been there last year, and then I remember the place, and then I say, okay, I'm there. So there is no time, there is no space. In the same way, to move the thoughts or to move the mind from the thoughts of Lynn's house to my house here does not involve anything physical, does not involve time, does not involve space. So it's not something that we do uh, physically. What do you mean by destroy the mind? It's not something physically, it's just mentally. It's a very subtle aspect of dhyana. So this, I mean, the most subject, one of the most subtle subjects when we come to this level of spirituality is to wrap the mind itself around the concept of what is the mind and what is the thought. Is mind different from thought? Okay, and what is the thought and what is the mind? Because again and again we say you have to pull the mind from the world of objects, right? And then another moment you need to remove the word from the mind. So which one is doing that? What am I doing? I'm removing the word from my mind, or I'm pulling the mind from the word. It's everything so subtle. You understand? It's very very subtle. So how we do that? The mind is going to be removed. You know? The mind that's going to be removed from the world, or the thoughts are going to be removed from the mind. So what is the difference between the thoughts and the mind itself? You understand? So the thoughts, they remain there in any case because they are impressions deposit in the causal body, in the subtle mind, in the subconscious mind. It's there, okay? The bridges are there, the modifications are there in the subconscious level. So it's there, and then it appears in the conscious mind, okay? And all of that is being revealed and illumined by consciousness. So who is doing what here? Because consciousness does not do anything. It's the mind that has to purify itself. You understand? It is reflected consciousness that has a certain feature, which is self-awareness or self-reflection. It's self-aware, self-conscious. Say, oh, the mind is self-conscious. What it means, it's conscious of itself. It's conscious of its concepts. You understand? And the mind, which is in this sense, in this concept, it's more than just a bundle of thoughts. The mind is reflect consciousness, which somehow gets to be so subtle and discriminative that starts seeing like, okay, I am something other than the thoughts. There are thoughts that feel good, some other thoughts do not feel good. Some thoughts may feel good, but it's delusional. So I want to be, grounded in this spirit reality. So the mind itself, with an aspect of consciousness, the reflective consciousness, is going to somehow choose and pick the thoughts that somehow helps the mind itself, which is reflect consciousness, to develop, to grow, refine, purify. What for? What for? To feel good? No, not only that. The mind wants to feel good, but above all, the mind wants to be so subtle and so discriminative that wants to discriminate the mind itself, who's cleaning up the mess of the mind, of the thoughts. Now the mind has the most difficult and most subtle endeavor, which is to discriminate the reflected consciousness from original consciousness. And the mind has to be very, very refined and subtle and pure to do that job. Does it make any sense to you guys? Hello? Yeah? because we say, sometimes you say people that the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. You know? But those thoughts somehow they are being seen by something which is a deeper aspect of the mind, which we could call the witnessing entity, you know, which is the refined intellect that is witnessing the bundle of thoughts. You understand? And these thoughts develops another thought as well, which is a thought in respect to itself, you know, which is like, how do I know this thought? How do I know this bundle of thought? How do I know my patterns of thinking? You know, it starts developing thoughts about its nature as the witnessing of the bundle of thoughts. And this aspect of the mind that's witnessing its appearance nature is the ego. You understand? Is the ego, the aspect that say, I am an entity and I experiencing my body, my mind, and the world. And this I am is the ego. It's witnessing, you know, any and everything. So it's not only a bundle of thoughts about the body and the world, but it's about my sense of identity as the ego. Okay, a good sense of identity, a good self-esteem, a bad self-esteem. All of these are thoughts, but the mind has thoughts not only when it contacts the object, but it starts having thoughts in respect to itself because it is self-conscious, self-reflective, self-aware. Starts having thoughts as if, so I'm good, I'm growing, I'm refined, I'm just helpless, you know. So all those thoughts are thoughts in respect to anathema, but the anathema comes to the level of being the very nature of this body mind sense complex, you know, in the sense that if I'm engaged in higher, superior thoughts or abilities or not, you know, which is making me a happier, a lighter person or not. So all of that to talk about the nature of dhyana. Let's see where they go here. So it's not physically removing the mind from the world, and not physically removing the world from the mind. You know, I'm going to remove the mind from the world. Or I'm going to remove the world from the mind. There's no physicality about that. It's just the mind is reflect consciousness, developing a sense of what elevates me spiritually, you know, and even mentally and psychologically, and what is preventing this elevation, this purification, this refinement, you know. So when we say that we have to withdraw the object from the mind, it means that the thought connect with the object. So this is a basic teaching in respect, in relationship to what we are unfolding here now. It is a concept that a thought of an object is always faithful to the object because every time there is an object before us, there is a thought. Okay? But suppose there is an object that appeared before us that we never had a concept about. You understand? And now, so there is nothing in the Akasha records to tell me, this is a cat. No. So how we do with this, you know? Oh no, this does not exist. Every time there is an object, there is a thought about the object. No, 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 no. A child is like that in the beginning. The child sees something and has no concept in regard to that something. You know, in the beginning, keeps putting everything in the mouth to begin to develop a sense of whether it is something good or not. No? This very rudimentary way to start assessing the world to determine, you know, some definition about what things are. Then later on, the child uses five senses, and then the mind develops, and then he goes into the collective mind and has access of all the knowledge, which is potential knowledge of the culture of a certain civilization. Yeah?
So does that mean that when children are very young, they haven't even developed their pratibhasika because they can't project. It's all just incoming at that point. They don't have a
Yeah.
break, so to speak. So the pratibhasika, that's interesting.
Well, they carry this within themselves, but it's not. It's suppressed. It's latent. You know, it's there. The vasanas are there, but the mind is not developed enough so that they can make use of those vasanas
They don't
to
have a
view the
hook.
world.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't have a hook for it yet. So it's
yeah,
sort of, that's great. Thanks. Never thought of it that way.
yeah. So here Swami explains in a more simple way that you don't need to leave the office to connect to the class of Vedanta. You can stay in your office and take a moment and connect to the teachings of Vedanta. You understand? And things like that. And then once you are in the class of Vedanta with Swamiji, so you have to leave the office there where it is, the thoughts around the business, the work you are doing, and so on. Huh? So all of that to point out to the fact that there is no physicality and time and space involved. So the mind is entertaining the thought modification, and we need to become a little bit picky about which kind of thoughts we entertain. And it's so difficult. The mind, once it develops profound, deep tendencies, vasanas, samskaras, and so on, it becomes so difficult to withdraw from those patterns. You understand? Extremely difficult. So we need to somehow do this work and do a maintenance work all through our life to come to a certain degree of mental, emotional purity uh, that allows us to live happily. Forget about moksha, but at least live happily, holding, engaging good thoughts, good patterns, and so on. Okay. So how to not entertain certain patterns, certain vrittis, certain thoughts. So in Atma dhyana, which is the ultimate dhyana meditation, because you are meditating on the self, you know. So we know that the self is something very difficult to meditate upon. Why? Because the self is a formless thing without any attributes. So there is no way we can wrap our mind around the Atma, the self, to say, okay, now I'm thinking about the self. Okay. Furthermore, the self is your very nature, so you cannot objectify that which is your very nature. But this is the difficult with the Atma dhyana. The mind has to withdraw from the anathema world of objects. Every thought connects to the body, the world, and even to the thoughts, to the pattern of my mind. Every thought connects with the world, and every thought connects to my self-image, what I feel, what I think, what I believe, what I like, and the whole complexity of, of thought processing around my likes and dislikes is also something that needs to be objectified in Atmadhyana, because I have to go there and see where I'm losing my energy is leaking, because no, I'm not thinking of anything of this world, but maybe not tangible thoughts or regarding to more tangible objects, but I may be thinking about my notions and ideas and things that are very subtle, but which somehow constitutes my sense of identity as the knower, as the ego. So all of that. Uh, so I have to somehow remove from my mind all these thoughts, or I remove the thoughts from my mind, or I remove my mind from those thoughts. It's up to discussion. My take is that you can remove the the mind from the thoughts, but you cannot really remove the thoughts from the mind directly. Why I'm saying that? So how I'm going to remove those fleets, those impressions of my mind directly? I cannot do it by sheer willpower. You understand? So I cannot really remove those thoughts in regard to the words from my mind, but I can more easily remove my mind from those thoughts by a certain effort. So I can remove my mind from those thoughts. The thoughts are there. I remove my mind from those thoughts and bring the thoughts to the scriptural thoughts, the vleets provided by the scripture that establish myself thinking of my very true harmonious nature, true nature. So I can bring my the mind to those elevated thoughts, around the Atma, the self, and that is going to do what? It's going to create new vasanas. You understand? Because the impressions of the mind are going to produce thoughts. I cannot remove the thoughts from there, but I can replace the, let's say, impure thoughts with thoughts which are pure. Why it's pure? Because it's in harmony with my nature and the nature of reality. And then it feels comfortable because everything that's nature feels comfortable. So it's easier to actually understand that removing those thoughts from the mind cannot be done directly, but can be done indirect by removing the mind from those thoughts. Don't let the mind go there to reinforce again and again those thoughts that brings about support and makes stronger our vasanas, our samskara. But for that, we need to bring the mind to the scriptural knowledge, thoughts, until we develop good vasanas. And then we have thoughts because the mind must think. I mean, nobody managed to live in Vikalpa Samadhi all the time. And even if one does that, it's not much different than just sleeping your entire life. You understand? So you're not going to get knowledge because sleep does not provide us with the potential for knowledge, much less self-knowledge. No? So any thought about your life, thought about your finance, money, anything connected with the anatima world, uh, the body, the mind, and the world, the three aspects of the anatima world, you should watch out and not entertain those thoughts unless it's really necessary. Okay? So one has some money in the bank and now, oh my God, oh my car is broke. Now I have to buy a new car. This one is not good anymore. So I have to entertain the thought of which car I'm gonna buy, how old, how new, and this, and that. So sometimes we need to entertain the mind, and we need to entertain the mind, and we better entertain the mind, but not entertain the mind with thoughts in respect to the body, the mind, and the world, unless it's absolutely necessary. You know? But every time possible, we remove those obsession with the three levels of anatma akara vrittis. Okay, which ones? The thoughts in respect to my body, to my mind, and the world. And then we can say, no, but I don't care. I mean, I want to refine my mind, and I don't want to think about those things anymore. And then okay, and then it's better you replace those thoughts with thoughts that are going to purify and liberate you at the end. No, 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 no. I mean, thoughts to me is about all the same. I want to simply remove those thoughts or remove my mind from those bridges, suppressing them or whatever, and then I want to hold on to that silence, to that peace. It's okay. You can do that. But then the peace and the silence is not going to remove those vasanas, those tendencies. Okay? It's like somebody from my Brazilian group that contacted me to say that, oh, I'm going to begin doing some vipassana. Somebody who's studying with me for 5, 6, 7 years with a good mind, but somehow experience is very seductive. The person living in an environment surrounded by people like that, they finally convince this person to do a long silent retreat of vipassana, and this person contacted me to try to say, oh, indirectly, is it okay I do, teacher, and then the person was kind of saying, so I'm doing this, but only for purification. Yeah. And then I said, okay, okay, but for purification, you need to not follow just those instructions, because the instructions around these groups of vipassana is just to create peace and silence. And peace and silence is going to be sold as the final gain, the final accomplishment, and then you have to do vipassana for the rest of your life to have some peace or silence. Okay? So you just calm your mind, and then if you want purification, then you have to withdraw from the instructions of those leaders there, and you have to start bring the mind to the seer of the silence, the seers of the peace. I am the consciousness illuminating and revealing this peace, this silence. Do that, otherwise you are not going to gain much purification. You're going to gain an experience, and it's okay to have an experience, but be careful because it's addictive and may hook you, you know. And you never know. Sometimes there someone goes, someone doing Vedanta for 5 years, maybe go, ah, because experience is very seductive. You understand that, Mark?
Yes, absolutely.
If you attach to a particular object, a particular person, that person holds in your mind all the time. It is some attachment, a son or a wife or husband, so on. So anywhere you're gonna go, you're gonna have that thoughts, that reach, that concern, that preoccupation. So your ragas and diversions are going to be governing your mind. And the deepest the attachment to a person or thing or circumstance, the more relevant those raga and diversions are going to appear in your mind. Raga and dvesha is like uh, objects of desire, objects of aversion. But once I have detached from all kinds of objects, uh, object of attachment, that's why meditation requires detachment. Those objects, those vasana samskara, those patterns, repetitive patterns of thinking about certain things, place, people, and circumstance, those appear and they are profound. They are very often there because of attachment to those things. The attachment, as we know, it can be positive or negative. Can be positive that, oh, I'm so dear to this and I want it so much that I'm all the time thinking on how to keep it or how to gain it. And negative is how I'm going to get rid of this now. Huh? And then you think about that all the time. Okay? If you sit in meditation, dhyana, with much attachment to your mind, it's going to be only sitting. But your mind is going to be everywhere except in the very seat you are sitting. Right? Therefore, you need to detach from those objects, subtle objects, which are the world appearing in your mind. We have to remember that the ego is an object. How come it's an object? Because it's something that I can objectify and see and touch, okay, observe, witness. I'm witnessing my ego. So, and then the ego itself, those notions around our nature as an experience entity, those thoughts are object. Ego is an object. Every thought is an object. It very often it wants to deceive us and say, no, no, I am the subject here. No, the subject is something very subtle and it's not an experiencing entity. Okay. Detachment, having detached from the object, do not ask me how you're going to get this detachment. You are supposed to know that because we have dealt with it before in the other chapters of the Gita: control, discipline, and so on. I will explain because it's not the place of that. I will explain a little bit or not. I don't know. I take for granted that you remember because you guys have good memory and you know how to stay detached from those vrittis. Krishna will be talking many times in the Gita and explain many times how to do that. Therefore, stay detached. When the mind is detached of the vrittis in regards to the anatma, yeah, now the mind is free. Free for what? Uh, we have this expression, oh, I want to be free, I want to be free. You want freedom? You want freedom from what? I want freedom from this and that. And for what? You have to see what you're going to do with that freedom. You can free the mind from those tyrannic vrits, but then once you have freed the mind from that, you have to see what you're going to do with that freedom, because you can be tyrannically governed by a mind which is now attached to what? To a different kind of prison, which is sattvic thoughts or silence, peace, and so on. And he gives a very simple, how you're going to cook this. He gives a very, very, very simple example. Suppose I have a book and I give a book to you. We are talking about books and then concepts and notions and teachings, and then we are both intellectuals. We love books. And then I give one book, but I'm so excited that I want to give you more books, but you have only one hand, two hands. So if you have only one hand free, you need to drop one book to hold the next book that I want to share with you. Huh? So likewise, the thoughts are like that. We can never think two thoughts at the same time. We need to drop one thought, and so that we can engage in another thought. Ah, no, no, I'm multitask. I can think two thoughts at the same time. No, we cannot. What happen? What happens is that we do like this. We go, we visit this thought, we come back, we visit this thought, who does that the best? Custom serves. When you call for someone for custom service, somebody is on the other side of the planet and they are attending 10 people at the same time. And they have to keep in mind everything, holding those thoughts. And then he goes back to you, puts you on hold, and that. This is multitasking, but one thought at a time. When the mind is preoccupied, likewise, with an object of the world, how can the mind be available for the Atma dhyana? Therefore, withdraw the mind from the world, and then what should you do? Like Swami Shimai, disconnected the mind from the world, and then what do? You need to do something with this. You cannot hold there, disconnect from the world because you're gonna turn into a zombie. You disconnect the mind from the anatomy world and then connect the mind with what? The scriptural knowledge that reveals to oneself as the non-dual self, the Atma. What do you do? The mind abides in the Atma, the mind dwells in the Atma. So, and this brings more complication in there because the Atma, how I'm going to dwell and hold on to the Atma, abide in the Atma, if the Atma is my very nature, you know? That's why it's so subtle. Vedanta Nidhyasana or dhyana, Atma dhyana is so subtle. What do you mean by dwelling in the Atma? Again, we should not take it in the physical sense. Because of what? Because the Atma, the self, is all pervasive. So I'm all the time, hooked up by with my nature as the Atma. So what I need to do is avoid those wrong notions that defines me as the body mind sense complex and the world, and the attachments that this body mind sense complex have with the world. Those thoughts in respect to I, the body mind, in the world, and my attachment, my likes and dislikes, that is what is the veil of ignorance that somehow prevents me from enjoying the fact that I'm all the time, soaked in the Atma, because the Atma is all pervasive, limitless. It's my very nature. Nature is something that I cannot edit or change, not even a bit. Huh? So how I'm gonna do this well in the Atma, not in the physical sense? The same way. The objects are not located in time. It's the thoughts in my mind, and the Atma is another thought in my mind. What is the difference then? You're just holding the mind to the thought. Yes, but it's not just like I am the self, I am the self, I am the self. You need to understand what the self is. Therefore, we have the teachings that I provide you with all the tools or the elements to think about you in a more organic, complex way. Although what you are is free of attributes, but still we have many other ways, pointers to describe your nature, in many different analogies and examples and metaphors, and you have to remember all those kinds of things when you are trying to bring your mind to the Atma, because the Atma is your very nature. You are all the time abiding, soaking in the Atma. Yeah? So you do the same thing as you do by removing the mind from the physical object. So you bring the mind from the object, this is a table, to this is my chair now. So you bring the mind from all anatma thoughts to the atma, to the self, my very nature. And since I cannot do that physically, uh, I have to do that how? Remembering that I don't need to, in truth, I don't need to do anything to bring myself closer to abiding as the self, limitless self. But I can do and I must do is an effort to clear those thoughts which prevent myself from enjoying my nature. I mean, my nature is that which I'm abiding all the time. You understand? So this process, this Vedantic process, long before, sometimes when you are in tune with the scriptures, I took the liberty to say things that made sense to me without ever have seen this in any of our texts. I said many years ago that the Vedantic process is an indirect process because you cannot approach the self, the Atma, directly because you already the self. So you can do that through the teachings of Vedanta, but it is an indirect process. How so? I heard that the self-knowledge is a direct knowledge. The knowledge is direct, but the way you go about to accomplish that is indirectly. How so? By removing the thoughts which are not natural to your true nature, which are not in harmony with your true nature. Harm, body, mind as me is not a good thought. It's going to create a lot of anxiety and fear and desires, and the sickness of samsara and so on. So it's indirectly, you have to just remove those thoughts. And then later on, many years later on, just to conclude, I saw Swami Paramarthananda saying the same thing many years, maybe a year ago or two, saying like, no, it's an indirect process. And then I say, oh, you see, Shwara, you put that thought clear in my mind at that time. So the Atma is located everywhere. Therefore, how can I abide and keep my mind on the Atma, the self? It's all pervading consciousness, never away. So I cannot get away from this all pervaded self. So how I'm gonna do this job? No, you don't do this job. You cannot do anything to be more in touch with the self or less in touch of the self. You are all the time soaking the self as the self, but you need to do what? You need to deal with those thoughts which are just absolutely uh, non in harmony with that which is a fact. You know, your nature is consciousness, that by which you can illumine and reveal every one of these thoughts you have about yourself as a good ego. Okay. Just to cut it short, you guys, you know the whole process by now. You have been studying Vedanta since a long time. It's to bring the mind to abide in the Atma in the beginning is to bring the mind to abide in the scriptural vrittis, the concepts and notions presented by the scriptures. Why? Because what is the difference between the scripture and the self? So the scripture was revealed by the self, through the self as Ishwara. Huh? And why we say that the scripture is God, okay, is the self, because it's a means, it's a tool. Fundamentally, it's a media tool with the potential to reveal the true nature of whosoever abides in those notions and concepts presented by the scriptures. But it's a concept, yeah, but it's a concept in harmony, truly in harmony with what you really are, which is freedom and independence from this world. So you have to bring the mind to the scriptures because the scriptures is what reveals. It's a process by which you discriminate. I mean, none of these. Everything that appears as an object of thought slash experience is not me. I am the light. I am the light. I am the light. So you go through this process following the teachings of the Vedanta, and by doing that, you establish yourself as the light of consciousness, and you just take every object, not only the physical material world, but the subtle world, which is the most difficult because the most subtle, you see everything as an object being revealed in your light of consciousness. So this is the process. You abide in the teachings that do this final viveka, which is a discrimination between I consciousness, the light that illumines and reveals this world, and any and everything that we experience in the physical and in the subtle world. So which kind of vritti, which kind of thought? The thoughts which are associated with the self. And where do you find the thoughts associated with the self? In the Upanishads. Atma, Nishta, Nama, Atmakara, Vritti, Eva, whatever. So scriptural knowledge. And that is why I repeatedly say the Vedantic meditation is not thoughtlessness. So this is again important. Everywhere else we go, it's the ultimate goal of dhyana is to produce no mind or no thought or silence. Huh? And Vedanta meditation has nothing to do with that. That's a big one because most people are interested in that of no mind, no thought, silence, peace. In the yoga philosophy, generally, overall, talks about the combination of meditation as a silent state. thoughtless state, no mind. In Vedanta, we do not accept and we do not suggest and much less approve this notion. It's very misleading. It's not thoughtless, the goal. It's not the thoughtless, it's not possible, but it's no use. It is not the thoughtless is not, it's not that the thoughtless is not possible, but it's no use. It is possible, but it's difficult. One has to develop a huge Nirvikalpa Samadhi Vasana, and then one somehow comes to the point uh, in which Nirvikalpa Samadhi, of course, naturally, I never experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi, so I'm not an expert, but I understand the final subtle distinction between Sadkalpa Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and Sahaja Samadhi. So it's of no use, except that mind gets relaxation and the body gets the relaxation, and one feels so good, and one wants now has a vasana for what? For more silence, more meditation of relaxation, meditation of no mind. That's the danger I was trying to point to this person who was trying to get a permission. Is it okay? You validate. I'm doing that for purification. I said, be careful, because mind is very seductive. It's a person with a very good mind, but very rajasic. And the person, after having so many people around in the place where she's, she lives, seducing her to go into the experiential world of Vipassana, she somehow considered. Okay, therefore, thoughtlessness, we do not give importance in Vedanta, we give importance to thought. And what kind of thought we mean? The thoughts around, centered around our nature as Satchitananda. Yeah? And the consciousness principle by which the world is known, by which the body is known, by which the mind is known, by which even the thought is known, and not only the thought is known, even the subtlest state is known. you know, the wonderful ideas of the ego about itself is known. The silence is known by that awareness alone. And this awareness is what I am, consciousness of a limitless nature. This is what I am. So which thoughts we need to engage? This kind of thoughts. What is this kind of thoughts? I mean, I'm none other than the light of consciousness in which all thoughts occur. Is this a thought? Is a thought. What is the thought now? I am the light of consciousness in which all thoughts, yeah, relate to the body, the mind, and the world occur. But this Vedantic process is a thought. We engage in that thought. And what is the difference between this thought and the thoughts about the body, the mind, and the world? Is this thought is the thought which truthful and faithful to your true nature, a limitless light of consciousness. And not only it's truthful, but it's because it's real, it's the truth. Sooner or later, it becomes doubtless truth, revelation. And then one has what? Sahaja Samadhi, those thoughts, they are set in the subconscious mind. There is no doubt. The other thoughts about the anatomal world, they are going to be visiting the mind and revisiting the mind. But these thoughts about I'm the light of consciousness, in which all of these thoughts about the anatomal core is there. Anytime I get in trouble, and then this thought comes in the front and say, "Opa, nothing to be concerned, because nothing can really affect me because I'm the light. I'm the space in which everything appears. I'm the light in which everything appears, and I'm not part of this. I'm not affected by any of it." So this is the thought we need to engage until that tool is no longer necessary. Why? Because that thought is properly established. Oh, and then as a vasana development, but I don't want to be moved by vasana. Hey, like James used to say, pack it up, because you are an entity programmed by vasanas. Without vasanas, you are nobody. You are not a Jivatma. You need to be moved by vasanas. You either moved by vasanas that somehow creating suffering because it's not in harmony with your true nature, or you just get aligned, conform to your true nature, and then you are moved by this beautiful vasana, which is a vasana that somehow begins as a vasana, but later on establish you in your true nature. It's Satchitananda, Brahman, consciousness of limitless nature. This itself is a form of thought, yes. Okay, it's a form of thought. The witness of the thoughtful and thoughtless mind. And I am this one from our thoughts I entertain. And I like the several thoughts. These thoughts arise in consciousness, but they cannot disturb the consciousness. I am the consciousness undisturbed by whatsoever I illumine and reveal. Is this a thought? Yes. It begins as a thought until it becomes a fact. It's very hard to explain how it is. You understand? It begins as a thought, but because this is a thought absolutely faithful to my nature, sooner or later I get it, and then the thought becomes a fact in the simple language of Swami Paramarthananda. You understand? Suppose, once I heard a story about they found a human being somewhere in a jungle, somewhere in the forest, and this child lived with other creatures, other animals, maybe monks or anything. And then this child he did not know how to speak, but there was already vasanas, which are animalistic vasanas, you understand? Now, just imagine I don't know the whole story, just imagine the process of teaching this child that you are not this or that animal, you are a human being, you understand? And the person is going to say, no, 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 I am not a human being, I'm a monkey. Yeah? Why? Because ignorance is operating there, and the person is behaving in a way which is not harmonious to one's genetic code as a human being. But then, with education, the person may have got enough knowledge until that suggestion that you are a human being and you have an intellect and a mind and so on, you can develop still, there is still time. Maybe with time, the person has seen that as a fact. Yeah, I am what? I am a human being. Another beautiful analogy is that of the lion that was dropped by his mother, yeah, and then was taken care and brought up by sheep, yeah. And then there was this herd, and this little lion was there growing, growing, growing. And then the lion became big, and the lion was there behaving still as a sheep. He was totally not following its true nature. And then one day, an old lion passed by and saw that thing. And he says, I'm hungry. I'm going to go then eat one of those sheep there. And then he saw that there was a lion there, young but beautiful, strong lion. And he said, so, no, I can't just go there and eat. I have to understand what's going on because this is unnatural. I have never seen such a thing. It's not natural. And then he had to run a little bit more to grab this young lion. And then he had a good satsang with the lion and say, so why you were going against your nature? You are lying, why you are, oh, don't give me this kind of fake news. I am a sheep. I am a sheep. And then he had to spend some time satsang with him. And finally enough, he said, okay, I'm going to bring you to see your true face now. The true face is seen through a reflecting medium. Vedanta in this context is a reflecting medium, a mirror that's going to reflect to the Jivatma its true nature as limitless consciousness. So he took this lion to the lake. The lake was serene and calm, and then it was like reflecting. And then the lion showed, the old lion, the guru showed his own face. You see me? Oh, my face? I am a lion. Now look at your face. You are a lion. Look at the face of those sheep. Those are sheep. You are lion. And then the knowledge clicked to the lion, and the lion no longer was living in contradiction with its nature, and he started living in harmony with its nature, and then immediately he behaved like a lion, you know. And then they say, "Oh my God, let's go there. Let's eat some of my brothers there," you know. I'm no longer vegetarian here. I'm tired of being a vegetarian. I want to live according to my nature. I, the consciousness, illumine all thoughts. I am the witness of thoughts, but the thoughts themselves do not disturb me. Jesus called asangatva. I am asanga. My nature of non-associated, no connected with anything. Asanga. Aham sangaha is one form of thought. Aham sakshi is another form of thought. And the thoughts arrive and depart, but I never arrive. So he is pointing out that even those thoughts, aham brahmasmi, tattvamasi, aham sangaha, that all these thoughts which point us to one's nature is the light that illumines all the thoughts. All those thoughts come and go, and I remain as detached, yeah, from any and all thoughts, even the Aham Brahmasmi thoughts. That's why we say Vedanta is something that you use and leave behind. You don't need to carry it forever. You use it, you carry it for a time being until it has done its job, and then one does not be living one's life doing this discrimination between Atma and Anatma all the time. No, you do it in the beginning, okay? Because all thoughts are going to come and go, because they have to give you room to another thought. So just imagine that you would have to remember Aham Brahmasmi, and then in the old age, your mind is kaput. You have Alzheimer's or this and that. And then you start saying, I am a cat, I am a cat, I am a cat, and then you are toast because your mind is the fact. You understand? The thoughts, they come and go. So, but your consciousness is that which is ever present. So once you have the detachment, so you are going to go, meaning to say you don't need to come back anymore to samsara. I never arrive, I never depart. It's exactly like people who enter the hall and the light illumines, and the people leaves the hall, but the light remains there. So is your nature, the light that illumines every phenomenal coming and going objects of this world, in the subtle and the physical gross universe. I never come, I never go. These are all what now I have been talking and you have been listening. And this, even you listen, your mind should have entertained relevant thoughts, and all those thoughts are dealing with the nature of the Atma. That's why the definition of Nididhyasana Vedantic meditation by Swami Paramarthananda, the first time I heard that, I still remember exactly where I was walking. Some impressions are very strong. We used to live in Italy. I'm walking through the trails there in the woods, all the time listening to Paramarthananda. And then he described the process of Vedantic meditation as holding on, of abiding in these thoughts around the nature of the Atma, which he was present at the time as homogeneous flow of Vedantic thoughts, in harmony with one's nature. All these thoughts have to be of the same nature, okay? All the thoughts that I have been entertaining now is dealing with the nature of the Atma, which is limitless. Jesus called Akanda Akaravriti. Akanda Akaravriti means any thought pattern connect to my nature as limitless consciousness. And entertaining this thought pattern is called Aktimani Avastana. You see, I mean, when you go, if you know Sanskrit and you go to study this in details, they go very deep and they even give different names and expressions for all of these. Yeah? Even the whole pattern that you entertain, this flow of similar thoughts, homogeneous, even this flow, they have certain names, expressions to explain what is going on, what is the nature of this nididhyasana. Atmani avastanam. This is called dwelling in the Atma, abiding in the Atma. It's nothing to do with no mind. The thought pattern which is present now, you can have infinite thought pattern like that. Aham Matsaga, Aham Brahmasmi, I am formless, I'm the light. So there are so many mantras that are just there establishing and our true nature is limitless Sachitananda. All of these are called Atma Dhyana. So now we can do this Atma Dhyana, uh, uh, let's say, so you bring the mind, the objects of your meditation now is the nature of the Atma. You are doing the Atma Dhyana, recalling, remembering the mantras of identity presented by the Upanishad. Yet, doing this Atma Dhyana, one can do it uh, more on an inquiry vichara nature or just in a mantric repetitive nature. You understand what I'm trying to say? So the fascination with the nature of the Atma is such that one is no longer satisfied to just say, yes, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahma. One has to, the fascination is, I want to understand. I want to understand what is this limitless consciousness here and why it feels limit. And then all aspects of the teachings are just volumes present themselves until the mind is clear. So to do this nididhyasana more mantrically, let's say my subject is a repetition, it has a wonderful effect, a good vibration, and so on. But the fascination when it involves the entire intellect wanting to have this final understanding, which requires Ishvara's or God's blessings as well, is the most profound level of Atma Dhyana. I just I want to see uh, what is this difference between I, limitless consciousness, and this mind doing this process of Atma Dhyana. So the inquiry can go so deep, and the fascination can go so deep. You understand? And the intellect is going to be involved very, very profoundly as well. The mind must be abiding, as Krishna says, in the Atma, entertaining the relevant thoughts, and that state is called yukta, ityusyate. And that's called yoga, and that's called samadhi, and that's called absorption. And it said, and I said in the last class that samadhi itself is divided into two. Samadhi with effort at the beginning, savikalpa samadhi, and because the ego is still dominant, effort means individuality is still pronounced. And once the effort is entertained for some time, and then it becomes a effortless process. So savikalpa involves effort, you know, and then samadhi is when the effort is more or less no longer needed. And then it says, and what is that state of mind like? I want to understand better. Okay, he said, we're going to deal in the next verse, the verse 19 that is present here. The following simile is mentioned for the restrained mind of a yogi who is practicing dhyana yoga of the Atma. It's like a lamp in a windless spot which does not flicker. So all we have analogies because, as I said, to inquire into the nature of the mind itself and its states, is something so subtle that we need to use the aid of all kinds of metaphors, examples, parallels, analogies, and so on. Because it's very, very subtle, the mind. What is the mind? The mind is something that happens within the human experience that becomes intelligent enough to process experience through thoughts. You know, this discernment, determining what is this. It's very amazing, and all these globalists want to create eternal life with artificial intelligence. So it makes me laugh. How can something so dumb like artificial intelligence create a subtle body on which true reflect consciousness can occur? It's impossible. Artificial intelligence is just processing experience through a data, yeah, a huge data with all kinds of information, and gives us an example like Google can do for us. It's artificial intelligence. Okay, we stop here. We begin again from the 19th next week. Okay, doke. Something for you guys? Anything?
Really enjoyed the class. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you. Good.
What you said, Arlindo, about not just repeating it as a mantra, the um, the Maha mantras, for example, Aham Brahmasmi. I remember Swami Swavapriyananda, when he first became a monk and he was told this mantra, he went to his guru and he said, how many times should I repeat this mantra? And the guru said, it's not for repeating, it's for realizing.
Yeah. It's for contemplating and realizing. And yeah, totally. I was going to say something in connection with that. Yeah, it reminds me of the instructions of, yeah, that's what I was going to say, of what's his name? The guru, my main guru from Mumbai, Isagadatta Maharaj. He offered his meditation, which is not Atma dhyana, but it's a dhyana on the reflective consciousness, reflection of consciousness. And that itself was already too subtle for most people, and people will say, okay, so I have to hold on to the thought, I am, I exist, I am, and people would try, and it was just a repetition, I am, I am, I am, I am. He was not even come to the I am consciousness or I am this. Just hold on to your existence, your sense, feeling, I am. And most people would not really uh, grasp or click to benefit from that. And I was lucky that it clicked to me, and I started experiencing a sense of reality to this. I am, I exist as my nature, which was beyond the I am the body mind complex. You understand? So it depends on the quality of our minds, and then things are going to go more or less deep than only the pointers or the tools suggest. And Sagadatta used to say, hold on to that until that develops to become what? A sense, which is a thought I am, and a feeling sense I exist. You understand? And that he said, you're going to find the balance, he used to say, in the thought and the sense that I am this existence, as this conscious thought, feel, and that he used to create for the rare people, the rare ones that clicked to understand those instructions, an incredible sense of freedom during the process of doing that meditation on the reflection of consciousness. Okie dokie. Thank you. We meet next Monday back to the Mandukya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay. Namaste. See you soon again.
Great. Thank you, Arvinder. Bye.
Thank you all.